Hello, this is Patricia Angelin at Alba Technique, and you have just signed into all the feels, all the emotions. What you're looking at right now is a little oil that was given to the late actress Julie Haydn. And Julie Haydn was the original Laura in the famous play The Glass Menagerie and many other things many years ago on Broadway. And this is a horizon line. And in Alba Emoting Emotional Effector Patterns, we speak about having the eyes on the horizon line. And so I thought I would give you today, for us to start, just this lovely image of an horizon line, literally painted, that I keep in the Alba Technique studio. So here I am, coming back in, and we will just put a couple of books here. And the books that I'm going to put down are William James and Steven Pinker's How the Mind Works, on top of Shakespeare, of course. So here we go. That's not too close to you. That should be fine. And we are all met. Today we are talking about difficulties in the workplace with a difficult person, a single difficult person. And in our lives, we all have difficult people. You know, it could be said that we all have, our own neuroses, some degree of neuroses, but often we have to work, day in and day out with people who just are really problematic. And so 2 weeks ago on Instagram Live, we had a question about that. And I started answering it in the last session on Instagram Live. And promise, since we didn't get through the entire subject, because it's quite multi-layered, her question. So now we're going to hopefully finish it and then answer any other question that you might have today. And you can tell people about this, incidentally, because it will be on our YouTube channel. So please do subscribe to that. And then you can watch these things at any time. You could tell friends about it if you think it would be of interest to them. And we can share all the feels, with everybody else. And also it might inspire you, to ask a question for next time. The more specific you are with your question, the more clear I will be able to be with my answer for you. So that I won't have to be quite as so general and universal. Because whereas our emotions are universal, they're also absolutely unique to each one of us in every moment. So there we are. I think Katie has just put down the link to get to that. So one of the books that I'm currently looking at you on top of is William James. And William James, in 1880, that long ago, yes, 1880, the 19th century, he was among the many people who were having great scientific thoughts, and that really have only begun to be proven over the last 20 years once we got fMRIs, or functioning brain imaging, magnetic brain imaging. And what he posited, what he thought might be the case, was that even though it's anti-intuitive for us as human beings, since the Enlightenment particularly, everything's mind, left brain, left brain, left brain, William James in the journal Mind wrote, "What is emotion?" So you can look this up if you want to online. What is emotion? In the 1880s journal Mind. And he posited that that emotion, that the thought of the emotion, that our cognitive realization that we have an emotion when we are, quote, feeling emotional and know that we're feeling emotional, it's not the order it actually happens in. And everybody scoffed at him at the time because they thought, no, we know what our emotions are and we think, and it goes all the way back to philosophy and to Cartesian philosophy, to Descartes, who said, I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum, in Latin. Now, I think, therefore I am isn't a perfect translation, but it's the one we usually see. I think, therefore I am. And for us, in understanding our emotions and the emotions of other people, everybody, that's a really big problem, because essentially, cogito ergo sum ain't true. And as neuroscientists are gradually getting to understand more and more, only in our contemporary lifetime, and we've just got light years to go on this. So, screaming science, 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 it's just, for heaven's sakes, what science, what studies? But we are getting a pretty good idea. And what we know right now is that your emotions and my emotions, our limbic system of our brain, which is very complicated and wonderful, that it reacts to stimuli. Both stimuli that are external to us, and because we've got lots and lots and lots of habits of thought and mind from our experiences in our lives. Also our I just got myself bound up. It's been a very, very stressful 2 weeks. So we think we know what we feel, but in point of fact, we feel first and we react to stimuli either in the external environment and or coming out of our minds in looping and that sort of thing. So so the emotion comes first, really comes first. And only, in scientific terms, much later do we cognitively know that we're feeling the emotion we're feeling. So there needs to be a space between what we feel and what we do, so that we can recognize what we're feeling and acknowledge what we're feeling, and by acknowledging it, honor that we are feeling. And unless you take Alba emoting emotional effector pattern work live with me in person, you won't know with accuracy. But friends, you can begin. You can begin now to be more aware of yourself. If we were Buddhists, we would call it mindfulness. It takes you a long way toward being able to accept that you feel and what you're feeling. And so once we accept that we're feeling something, and we acknowledge whatever label we would put on it, it may be inaccurate, but never mind. We're acknowledging it, and we're putting our own label on it for the moment from within our own habits, our own natural reactivity, and then there can be a space of mind before we do anything at all about the feeling, before we speak, before we, especially if we're feeling afraid or angry, before we lash out, before we hit the Twitter, before we send the text or the iMessage, there needs to be a space of awareness of the self and what the self is feeling. That is very, 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 very important. So that's what I wanted to say starting out with this. Excuse me, I have to go blow my nose, pardon me. Blowing my nose off camera, always a lovely thing to do. Before I went on camera, I was told that we had received a text in regards to last Wednesday's Instagram Live, and the correspondent said, "So insightful, ellipsis, and sometimes funny." Now, of course, in writing, we can't tell the tone of voice that would have been said in, but I'm very pleased, Peggy, that you found it insightful and helpful last week, and we're going to follow up on that in a minute. And I'm also delighted that you find it funny, because I am aware that I am amusing. And so, as I often say to my students in class, I know I'm funny, you get to laugh at me a great deal. I'm absolutely fine with that. You're laughing with me if you're laughing, so it's fine. And going back to William James, 1880, anti-intuitive, I made sure I wrote to tell you, to our natural idea, the thought comes first. There's a national periodical called American Theater, and I was asked to review a book by a rather marvelous a teacher of vocal production for actors. So it's how to speak, how to project, how to scream or yell without hurting the voice, etc., etc. And her book, when I received the book, I opened up the package because I was all excited about reading about her work. And it was entitled, and indeed is entitled, "The Thought Propels the Sound." And when I opened it up, I was sitting in a Starbucks and I was appalled, frankly, because that statement is not true. The thought propels the sound. And a Chinese lady was going by at the time, and just intuitively I thought, ask her what she thinks, because I think she's really from China. So I introduced myself and I asked her whether she would react to a book that I had just received that I have to review. And I asked her if she was from China, and she said yes, she's from Hong Kong. And so I said, I won't say anything more except this is a book I have to review. Would you please tell me what you think of the title? And so I raised the book and I put it up without commenting, and she looked at it and she read it and she said to me, "That's not true. It's the opposite." And I said, "It's the opposite. What is that?" She said, "The thought does not propel the sound. The sound propels the thought." And I said, "Thank you. That's exactly what I thought." Because you see, the emotion, what they're trying to do is convey emotion. And the emotion comes first. The thought doesn't come first. But all of the 20th century acting modalities, all of them did not know this. They all think that it's about thinking, and that if you think the right thoughts, then the emotion is going to be there. And men and women, laddies and germs, that ain't true. So it's kind of interesting. So that's the William James thing. So now going back to the problem. And the problem was with a coworker who was very, very easily triggered. Now, triggered is a word right now that is become almost psychobabble. It was a term from psychologists who deal with trauma victims, and I mean big trauma. And now it's been kind of co-opted that every time I find something that I'm not comfortable with, you're triggering me, you're triggering me, you're making me have a reaction to that. It's your fault. So trigger is really kind of being misused a little bit. So let's just, bring that little elephant in the room out. So if somebody is telling you you are triggering them, it comes out of anger in that person. It's trying to push you away and it's trying to control you. Now, pace to the person who's saying that, peace to the person who's saying that. They are not cognitively aware that that's what they're doing 99.99% of the time. But for those of you who are able to listen to me and want to really know about all of your feels and ways to begin to deal with them, you need to know that you are not responsible for the feelings of other persons. As a bottom line, you really aren't. You are responsible for your own feelings and what you do with them. And as you become more and more able to manage your own feelings and not to act out in negative ways from within your own feelings toward other people and aggress against other people, whether you knew it or not before, there are lots of ways to aggress against other people when we're feeling things, because we want to be comfortable in the ways that we want to be comfortable, in the ways that we are used to being comfortable, and we want everybody else to cooperate with atmospheres to make us feel comfortable. And beyond politeness, courtesy, and I would hope graciousness on top of that. Those are the levels. People really need to be civil, and we've lost the sense of that in the current society. It's so much I, me, how I feel, what I'm passionate about, that I push that, not I literally, but one pushes that onto other people and then insists that the other people accept what I am feeling as being completely justified simply because I feel it. Now that is what is making the workplace so difficult when you've got volatile persons, emotionally volatile persons within your working group. So in the question that this woman had, she has a problem watching her coworker be in an easily triggered space. She said, to remind you, we're not able to listen last week, says she, I can see and feel his distress throughout the day. It's both in his speech and in his body language. She said, I offer him unconditional love, and I want to be very charitable toward him. And I want to switch how I speak and what I speak about, responding to his trauma accordingly. But then she finds that she gets resentful afterwards because she's the one who is having to make every single blessed adjustment. And of course, sometimes it helps and sometimes it doesn't help. If people's feelings, querent, if people's feelings are so volatile and so entrenched, as it sounds like this guy's are, you could spend the next 15 years trying to smooth things over for him, and it's not going to work. That's the bad news. The good news is that you can deal with what is happening to him insofar as how it is affecting you and how it is affecting your work day. But then the question becomes how. Number one, you don't need to diagnose him. You don't need to fix him. It's not your job. I don't know what your job is, but it sounds to me, and please correct this in the comments if I'm incorrect on this, it sounds to me like you were in one of the serving professions, that you are serving other people within a group professionally. So you're tossing ideas back and forth of how to solve the problems of other people outside the group. Not social work exactly, but certainly a social worker would be dealing with this. Now, because the persons who go into these helping things go in, at least when they're young, with the intention of helping, and they tend to be persons of goodwill. So it's not like this guy wants to be, at least initially, wants to be, going 6 ways down the middle every time somebody says something he doesn't agree with or whatever. But nonetheless, querent, you observe that he does. You then, with all those mirror neurons going on, you then read from both the type of speech he makes, the choice of words, the tone of voice, and the body. Is he coming forward? Is he looking like this? Is he getting tight? All of these things, I'm sure, are things that you are able to observe. And you want to make it better. You want to smooth it out. You want to namaste, so that you can get the problem solved for the other person. Meanwhile, he's caught up in he's busy tying himself in all of these emotional knots, which is affecting the meeting, right? And this can go on days. I mean, sometimes it's that the person just gets out of bed on the wrong side in the morning, and then they get into what we all would call a mood. I have very little patience with people in moods, because I think it's a way to thrust what they are feeling on everybody else and make everyone else pay attention. And I just want to shove those people in the garbage can and stick the lid on, because I think it's just so rude to push your emotions onto everybody else. Now, I have said that we want to be aware of our emotions. I am not one for repressing and shoving down emotions, but I do believe very strongly that in order for meetings to function, and in order for the wider society to function, whether we're ordering something at Starbucks or whether we are in a meeting with somebody who's got a chip on their shoulder, and we only can deal with ourselves, we need to what I call shelve. So you want to put it up on this shelf here, the emotion that you have. Once you become aware of it and name it for what it is, the best you can at the moment, then you put it on the shelf. It's the first thing you do. On the shelf, on the shelf. It's there. you can take it out later when you're not in the meeting, or when you're not confronting the difficult person online who's not social distancing or doesn't have a mask, or whatever it is that's going on that's making you, as many people would say right now, be triggered. Angry, in other words. Most of the time now, when people say they're triggered, they mean they're angry. And they don't want to say they're angry. And if you said, you are angry, they would go, no, I'm not. It's just that you said this. And I think that in this situation that is just not appropriate. Or I am feeling blah, 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 blah. Often, this brings me to the next thing that we didn't get to last time. A lot of these people in these meetings, like you are talking about, because they are seeking to be comfortable, because they are seeking to neutralize the negative feelings that they have in that moment, they then try to reach out to you by telling you, by asking you what you think. And they will say something like this, in quotes, be open with me, end quote. Or, I just need you to be honest with me, end quote. Simply be open and honest. Just say what's on your mind. Or say what you feel. We're all here together. We all have the same goal. We're all safe here. Now you could see by my face that if I was the person saying that, you would not be safe. Being open, being honest, with saying what you feel. That is a ploy that the triggered person is using to get information from you so that he, in this case it is he can get more of a feeling of control in the situation. People are highly volatile for whatever reason, because they had an alcoholic father, because they have had a mother who had to deal with schizophrenia, whatever. I mean, those would be extreme situations, but not uncommon. And those people have a lot of baggage. They just do, and it's there, and are dealing with it sometimes better than at other times. But often those persons seek to control other persons by using psychological language of acceptance and unconditional love when they are incapable of acceptance. Unconditional love, which the querent mentioned, is really, really rare. It's so rare that it's an attribute of the Most High God. It is under God's love as agape in the Greek. Agape means unconditional love. And it's one of the ways that the Greeks describe love. Also philia, friendship. Let me see, there are a couple of more. Adelphos and Eros. Those are the big four that I'm aware of in naming different aspects and different types of love. So these are well-meaning people, oh questioner, and this guy's a well-meaning person, and you know he is, so you want to make the meeting go smoothly. You want him to be able to feel better, but here's the crux. Do not expose yourself to him. Do not be open. Do not be honest. Ask him another question. Be very, very attentive to his answer. But you need to protect yourself from this person. He is someone from whom you do need to protect yourself. You're not going to be able to fix this. The most you're going to be able to do is, in working with the other people in the meeting, making sure that you keep on track with what needs to be happening. You can say things to the meeting. Wow, that was really, very interesting what, volatile guy just brought up. My goodness. Let's all take 5 minutes and come back to the meeting so that we can solve the problem that we're here to do. Thank you, person X, who's volatile, for telling us that. Thank you for sharing that. Let's all go get a drink of water and come back. Or if that's not what you guys do in your meeting, then you're going to have to just do a little white lie, and I do believe in them. They're called mental reservation. You just say, excuse me just a minute, that was really, really interesting. I've got to run to the bathroom. I'll be right back. And then you go, questioner. You do. You run to the bathroom just to get yourself out of Dodge, off of that camera, out of the room, to take the reaction that you were having to him out of the Zoom meeting. Or if it's a physical meeting, as you're beginning to go back in, you just need to get yourself out of Dodge. You really do. That's the healthy thing for you to do. I see that you're laughing, and she says, truth, one of the person who's tuned in. But this, I'm giving you all, it's a real wonderful tactic in the overall strategy of having good work relations. Because you can't call an individual on this kind of volatility. It'll just make them more volatile. You can't expose yourself to their volatility by opening yourself up, which is what they want. It's not good. It's not good, not only for you, it's not good for them. Don't give them that control. They do not deserve it. They do not know how to handle it. But yeah, they want it. Yeah, of course he wants it. That's how he can rearrange his internal world. But it's always going to backfire on you. Every single blessed time, I am telling you, don't open yourself up to this person. But you have to do it by letting them believe, as far as possible, that you are. You're just there, and you are so open. But don't answer their questions. Go back to the work at hand. Go back to the work at hand. Go back to the work at hand. And if they keep pushing at it and pushing at it because they want what they want when they want it, and this guy does, then you've got to get out. There is the only way to handle it is you must leave the room. And please know that when you utilize this tactic, it will be to the service of the overall strategy of getting the work done for other people, of solving the problems that take 5 and literally peeing it out, going to the bathroom, because the kind of fear and that anger in regard to him, and then the just resentfulness, and then the sadness, and the whole merry-go-round that these volatile people put the rest of us on. You know what? We don't need to get on their merry-go-round. No matter how much they're trying to make us do it, we don't need to get on. So that is my full-on advice. Don't get on their merry-go-round. Sit back a little bit, watch the merry-go-round go around, and then kind of put a little spoke in it and go, oh my goodness, that is so interesting. Yeah, I need a minute to think about that. I'm going to run to the bathroom. I'll be right back. And do it. If somebody says, no, we've got to deal with this right now, or don't go yet, wait a minute. Go, gotta run, be right back. And go. And then get a drink of water. I cannot stress enough that water or hot tea or whatever you drink, have something to drink with you in every one of these meetings. In through the nose. Five glugs, 5 swallows. This will loosen the larynx. It will soothe the tongue, all the membranes in the mouth, the lips. You can always take a moment too when these people are making you water does fix everything. You could also have some other things that you just automatically do that just give yourself a moment to think before you react. You take the drink of water or coffee or tea, whatever you have right by your desk there. You can also take a little bit, I don't know if I have anything in my pocket or not. I don't right now. Your little chapstick or your your lipstick, and you go, excuse me, and you put that on. You can see what you're doing. They know you're still listening to them. You can tell them, I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you. And then go a little bit off and, and let them see that this is what you're doing, but you're listening. And you might nod. You could almost, unless they're actually telling a lie or something, you can probably never go wrong with nodding and leaning in a little bit and then leaning back. So that's the rest of the answer to that question for this difficult person. If there's anything further that's practical that I haven't given you, please do feel free to comment, put it in comments. I would also like to know, questioner, if this does work for you and how it works and what it's doing in this particular specific situation. So that's all for this Facebook Live, All the Feels. We will meet again, same time, different platform, on Instagram from 5 to 5:30 p.m. right here, Instagram. And meanwhile, please breathe into the nose and out through the mouth and give yourself that moment of pause before letting yourself, before allowing yourself to react to other volatile persons. It'll do everybody a great deal of good. Bless you all. Bye-bye.